Evening all. Well, I say all. I can see there's only one person in the house at the moment. Hey WB, how you doing? You're quick off the mark. How's life treating you? I'm currently smoking an Oliva Serie V Melanio, and very tasty it is too. I'm doing well despite a very poor night's sleep last night, so I'm not going to stay on for too long. I don't want to get ill again. Hey Jeffrey, how you doing? Yeah, I would say these are probably, if not number one, but very close to my number one non-Cuban cigar. It's got a really good flavour, it's got a nice sweetness to it, it's got a tanginess to it. It's got a little bit of the non-Cuban sort of DNA, a slight bit of earthy spiciness to it, but it's not far off from the Cuban flavour actually. Put it this way, compared to, you know, the high-end Padrons and these kind of things, which are really expensive, you know, these are, although it's a premium cigar, it's still affordable, you know. So this evening, I'm just finishing off a pipe, which I think is probably going to end up staying with me because I've noticed a very, very slight crack in the shank. So I can't sell it, which is a shame because it's actually a lovely looking pipe. Hey West Texas, hey Savinelli, hey Smoking Ronnie, hey Snoopy. How you all doing? I've actually got a new type of stem as well. I'm just about to give this pipe a top coat. Tortoise shell stem. Nice smooth bit there. A smooth bit going all the way down there. Nice and grainy. And then rusticated around the sides there. I think it's a really cool looking pipe. I was thinking of maybe putting a little silver band there just to protect the shank, because it's got a hairline crack in it. It really is hairline. I mean, the tenon stays in really nicely. There's no issues. But I think I may well give it in to somebody to put a silver ring on. I'm not yet proficient enough with rings. The bowl, I wouldn't say it's huge. It is a big bowl. I wouldn't call it huge. I'm just a little bit gutted about that because, you know, I'd like to get my pipes out there, not just for the money point of view, but just to spread them around, you know, so that they actually get out on the market. So that's the first time I'm using a tortoise shell stem. Nice rounded rim. It's a bit of a, they call this a goldfish or something like that kind of style. I don't really use a Dremel very much. Occasionally, I mean, I didn't use it on this pipe at all. But sometimes when I have an issue with this junction here, the junction here is quite wide, it's not such a tight junction, so I didn't really have too much of a problem with that with this one. It's got a nice curve, and it really turned out quite symmetrical. But sometimes when, especially if it's a Dublin and it's going back inwards, the shape, it's slanting back inwards, so getting in that tight junction there, I'll sometimes use a Dremel. Yeah, it turned out well. Just a shame about the shank. You can't even see it, it's really hairline, but I just spotted it while I was sanding it, and just nothing I can do about it. So I'm just going to give it a top coat of a stain, and then I'm going to buff it. Right, where's my sacrificial stem? There it is. This is my top coat. This is a chestnut spirit stain. It's a very light stain, and I just use it to just sort of give an overall sort of coating. Gives a very light sort of beigey kind of stain to it, but it just sort of, because you get highlights and lowlights in terms of the stain, so this kind of just unifies it all. So it barely changes the colour, but it just gives it a nice finish. And it doesn't stay glossy like that, because it once it dries matte. But then I'll just polish it up with carnauba wax, and that's it. But this stain, this tortoise shell is ready-made. It's pre-pressed, the stem. At the moment, I'm not really making that many stems, although I have made some, and I'm slowly stocking up on the rods. I've got quite a few rods in stock now. And I'm just slowly, as the opportunity arises to make a stem, I'll make it. And I think each time that I've made one, I've improved. But time is an issue for me, and as I've always said with my channel, I try to do things in an economical way, time-wise. And stems are not a time economical way of doing things for me. So at the moment, I can't invest the time in making the stems for every pipe. But I do adjust them. I do make them really nice and comfortable, the bits. And once that's done, personally, I don't think there's a huge amount of difference. Obviously, the high-end ones, they're done to the nth sort of nanometer, so those will make a difference. But overall, I think they're pretty good. Hey Jordan, just doing the finishing coat on this one, and it's the first time I'm using a tortoise shell, which will go very, very well with that. Very nice grain, and it's a nice balance of rusticated and smooth. Hey Tony. So with this top stain, I don't actually wait very long. I let it dry for a minute or two, and then I just wipe it dry with a thing. I could even burn it dry, but I tend to not do that. And this will be good for staining, for buffing very shortly. little bit of bleeding on the stain, so I've got to be careful with that. Just catch it just before it dries so that I can redistribute the stain to prevent any bleeding of the stain. There we go, it's almost dry. And then I'll just buff it and it'll be ready to go. Actually, I might put a shellac on the rusticated area. I think I will do that in a minute. Let that dry for a minute or two. Hey Skull. What's interesting is how the life of a pipe changes as you're making it. I've said this quite a few times. It's quite phenomenal. This pipe had started with a completely different idea in mind. And the shape of the block, basically, in the end, just had an effect on the shape. And it basically grew from there. Hey Paul, how you doing? No worries, Paul. It's there for you, it's waiting for you. Hey Dwight, thank you very much. I enjoy doing them, so I appreciate that. I keep meaning to do a bit of a series for improvisation, absolutely. For BRTV. I want to do a series of making a pipe. Although I've done plenty of my live videos showing how I make a pipe anyway, and there is an A to Z pipe making video as well somewhere on my channel. You would be a funny addition, a production pipe production line. Not with you, Boris. What are you saying? Alex Rank. Trolling is not a good thing, unfortunately. It's a hassle. I've dealt with it myself. Obviously, when you get up, a certain amount of subscribers, you are going to get some negativity all the time anyway, and that's, for me, it's water off a duck's back. It doesn't bother me at all. But sometimes you do get trolls which they start to get really heavy duty, and I had that on a UK Facebook group, and I had to block a certain person because they were really just giving me a lot of grief. No worries, Boris. Yeah, absolutely part and parcel of social media. Yeah, Dwight, there was a time when I was more into cigars than I am now. I mean, I'm still into them, but I kind of treat them more as a treat. Whereas there was a time, maybe 2 years ago, when I was smoking 2-3 cigars a day, and not just little ones, full Robusto and bigger Toro-sized Cuban cigars and non-Cuban cigars. I don't know if I could go back to that now. That's pretty heavy going. Yeah, trolls are an issue, and definitely the videos that I do in the morning drive. I actually recorded one today, but I didn't upload it because I just didn't think it actually added anything. I don't like to upload a video of just filling space, just for the sake of it. And that's one thing with these non-Cubans, is that they ash a lot. Hey Portsmouth. So in the morning, many times I record in pretty much actually every day that you see that I haven't got a video up in the morning. Almost always I will have recorded one and I just decided against putting it up. Hi Daniel. Yeah, I responded to your message about the red stain. Like I said, I'm experimenting with colours all the time. But at the moment, the pipes that I'm making to sell. So I'm kind of sticking with sort of mainstream dyes, mainstream stains. Hey C Smokes, how you doing? Just finishing up this pipe. Not sure if the lighting's any good, but once that's polished up, it'll look really nice. No worries, Skull. All the best, Alex. It's the first time I'm using this tortoise shell, and I really like it. But this pipe is gonna pretty much stay with me. There's a hairline crack on the shank, which I only discovered pretty much after I'd virtually finished making it, which is a shame, but no harm in getting myself another pipe, I guess. I was thinking of getting a silver band put on it. I might still do that, I'm not sure. I know plenty of pipe makers do that, you know, to save a pipe. Ooh, I don't know if mine looks better than a Mastro. What they do with their pipes in terms of, you know, the shaping. I don't know what you call that shaping. Is it cheeking? I'm not sure, but it's so precise. It's so beautiful. If you follow him on Instagram and on YouTube, he puts up some stunning pipes. I've got a couple of them which have got that as yet unsmoked. I've got a couple of beautiful Mastro de Pages which I haven't smoked yet, but Paya. But I suppose one day they will get smoked. Right, what are we doing? How many pipes? I haven't actually counted for a long time, to be honest. If I had to estimate, I would say somewhere between maybe 60 and 80 pipes at the moment. There was a time when I had quite a bit more, but I kind of trimmed it down quite a bit. And in terms of actual smoking pipes, it's really quite a low number. I usually keep it to around 15 to 20 pipes in my rotation. And then every so often, whenever I get in the mood, I'll put a load up on for sale. I must admit that I did pull the trigger on a couple of pipes in the last few days, which I haven't done in a long time since I'm making my own. But I've got some really corking pipes on the way to me. I've got a couple of Leswood pipes, Ferndown, well, or Elwood, whatever. It's for the German market, they were called Elwood. So I've got a couple of those on the way. I think one of them I'm going to just sort of tighten it up a little bit, polish it up, and maybe sell. I have to decide which one I like. I'll probably keep one and probably sell one. And by the time I've finished with it, hopefully the one that I sell will fund the one that I'll keep. Hey Wildcat, how you doing? Ladies, did you say ladies? Are there any ladies in the house? The Rat, smoking Stonehaven currently at this moment. Keep up your great work. Thank you very much. I'll do my very best. Jack Griffin. How you doing, mate? Tim, evening, morning. Okay, so we're doing the next... so, a bit of shellac on the rusticated, so it gives it a little bit of a shine. Otherwise, it's very hard to get a shine on the rusticated parts of a pipe. Depends what you're doing with it, obviously. The lump of coal pipes, I keep them what's the word I'm looking for? Not shiny. I can't think of the word. Matte, that's the ones. Sea Smokes, thank you. Three estate pipes, but they don't taste great. Well, try different stuff in it. You know, I've had that. I had that a few times, but most notably, I had that with a Soren Refberg pipe, a beautiful apple. One of my favourite pipes. Certainly my favourite from Soren. I was big into Soren pipes at one stage. I've still got a few. And I've still got one beautiful one which is unsmoked, but it's not 9mm, so I've put it up for sale a few times, but I've not been able to make the price. I paid a lot of money for it. I bought it in Zurich when I went that time, a couple of years ago. So you can see the difference there between there and there. That shine just lifts it a bit. Vintage Peterson. I've got a vintage Peterson from the 70s which I need to restore. And I'm told they're quite rare in this original hand rusticated version. It's a really thick, craggy rustication compared to the ones nowadays where it's done by machine and it's very uniform. Here you can see it's kind of done by hand. It's actually a lovely looking pipe. I'm not a big Peterson fan, but I couldn't pass it up when I saw it. You know, you may not believe it, but those segues, they're off the cuff. You know, when I'm talking about a particular topic and then I move over to another topic, it's just what occurs to me as I'm speaking. So I can't always control where I'm going to go in a conversation. Well, I can control it, I can just not do it, but obviously, where would the fun be in that? And I am conscious that, you know, there's a certain percentage of my subscribers who often disagree with what I say, and for the most part, I'm not necessarily holding that position myself. I'm just, you know, raising the topic for discussion. But it's good. I think it's interesting. It adds another angle to the channel, you know, another point of interest. Cheers, Jack. Anyway, so where was I going? I've done a segue. Where I was going with that, Paul, was that I had that Soren Refberg apple, which I still do have, and I just couldn't get a decent smoke out of it. I was smoking vapors for the most part in it, and I had it from you, so it wasn't an issue in terms of ghosting or any kind of legacy flavors, and I just couldn't get a tasty smoke out of it. Hey, Jeff. How you keeping? Long time no see. Anyway, I just converted that pipe to Latakia, Latakia itself obviously has a very forward flavour, and I'm enjoying using it now. It just smokes great with Latakias, and it's fine. You know, sometimes you can get a piece of briar which just doesn't have a great flavour, and Virginia's being a little bit more delicate in flavour are not enough to overpower that flavour in the wood, in the briar. You know, sometimes maybe it hasn't been seasoned enough, it hasn't been dried enough, hasn't been boiled enough, whatever it might be. And then you just go over to a Latakia or to some other type of strong, maybe even aromatics, and it will completely change the smoking experience in that pipe. I remember reading a while back an article by GL Gregory Pease, that he had a pipe which he lusted after till he got it, and he eventually got it. And he has a policy that somebody had told him that when he gets a new pipe, I'm pretty sure I've spoken about this before on the channel, that when he gets a new pipe, he smokes the heck out of it for 2 or 3 weeks in a row, and that breaks it in. And he tried it with this pipe and tried what he could. He just couldn't get a decent smoke out of that pipe, and he ended up selling it on. And you know, selling on a pipe doesn't mean you're selling on a problem, because what's not good for you could be the perfect smoke for somebody else. So you needn't feel guilty ever about selling on a pipe which just isn't working for you. Anyway, somebody else had the pipe, and I think they also tried to break it in and didn't manage. They passed it on, and apparently it changed hands maybe 2 or 3 times. And in the end, he decided he wanted that pipe again, because he just loved the pipe. He thought, you know what, few people have smoked it, maybe they've managed to break it in, and he just wanted that pipe back. In the end, he traded it back again, and I think he, in the end, managed to break it in and get decent smokes out of it. I'm very, very happy to hear that, Wildcat. I really, you know, people don't always give feedback. And it's important for you know, people that make pipes or in any trade. It's important when you do something in the service industry of some kind that you get feedback. And it's, you know, I have that with my photography. After I've done a wedding or any other kind of event, if I get a message from the customer afterwards saying, "You were great, thank you very much, you know, it really was a great job," it makes all the difference. It really does. So thank you for that. I appreciate that, Wildcat. It's just a liquid shellac type thing. Did the auction pipes get to me yet? So far, one of them has got to me so far. I've got 2 packages for the auction. One of them is a pipe, which is from Jordan, and I've also got a package from Chris Morgan from Morgan Pipes. He sent me something really cool for the auction, which will be revealed. What am I smoking at the moment? I'm currently smoking a nameless cigar. No, I'm smoking a Serie V Melanio Robusto, the regular one, not the Maduro. The first half of the cigar is better than the second half. I didn't order a pipe from him, no. I'm doing my bit, I think, for the memorial thing. I would like to have one, but I'm not, you know, I kind of have to sort of limit myself here and there, even though I've just gone and bought some pipes. But because of what I'm doing myself for it, as I say, I would like to have one, but the main reason why I would do it was to be part of the whole situation, and I feel that I am part of it. I don't smoke Savinellis that much, so if I wasn't doing anything else to commemorate John, then I would probably buy it to commemorate it and to do my bit. But I'm doing my bit, and therefore for me it's not something I'm gonna at this stage anyway. Maybe I'll get one at some point, maybe, I don't know. I'm sure they'll be on the market from time to time. People will sell theirs or whatever. It would be cool to have one, but at the moment I'm not ordering one. Who knows, I might even end up with one of the auction pipes. Alright, I think this is good. So there it is. I'll do a proper video with a back facing camera, which is a lot better. But it's looking pretty good. I do like the tortoise shell. It's not 9mm, that's a shame. That stem is gorgeous. I do like this tortoise shell stem. It's the first time I'm using one, and I like it. As Drop Bear Woodworks would say, I like it. Piano Piper, how you doing? Mel. I was watching one of your videos today, Mel. The one you did on the front porch. And then I was in the middle of doing stuff. It was while I was working on the pipe, I think. So it was just jumping from one of your videos to the next. And I don't know when you posted this video. Maybe it was new, maybe it was old. But it was when you got your new truck, the extended cabin truck, the white one. I just thought it was really cool. I don't remember seeing that one before. Thanks, Sea Smokes. Appreciate that. Hey, Jeff. Now you're talking, man. Partagas D4s. Very nice smoke. 8 Half Corona. That's my favourite short smoke. I haven't bought any half Coronas for a while though. Maybe the next time I buy a cigar box. Yeah, absolutely, Paul. Nobody should ever feel pressured into doing something that they don't want to do, and they're only doing it because they have to follow the herd. Absolutely not. Oh, right, Sea Smoke, sorry. Mel, there's a package on its way to you. You're so right. John would be the last person to expect you to shell out money if it wasn't in your plan. Each time when I look at it from a different angle, it takes on a slightly different perspective. When you look at it sort of at that angle, that curve there just looks really, really cool, really nice. Put it this way, the shaping on it is not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad for a first go, and I'm just kind of starting to delve and play with this idea of contours. I did that in the big pipe that I made yesterday, and these are kind of similar, but I've gone all the way around to produce this panel here on the side. And so basically you've got two on the side and then one running along. So there was beautiful cross grain. I don't know if you can get that. Very nice cross grain on it, and it just really works. I didn't have to rusticate this. It was pretty clean, but there wasn't fantastic grain. Some areas had nice grain. This area here had some really nice cross grain, but it kind of just made sense. It gave balance. It just gave balance to the whole shape of the pipe and the design of the pipe. I almost went for a diamond shank today, not on this pipe, But you're talking about getting daring, Sea Smokes. That's going to be for me. There's a few sort of hurdles that I need to kind of cross. One of them is diamond shank, and the other one is spending more time making stems. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier on, at the moment I just can't. I do them occasionally, but I can't do them on every pipe. I just don't have the time for it. Despite the fact that I always seem to find the time to come on live with you guys. But it's in the overall scheme of things, I don't have the time to do it on every pipe. Put it this way, I would say that these areas here could have been done maybe with a lighter touch, because the grooves are quite deep. It makes these side panels stand out very nicely, but they probably could have been done with a lighter touch. But you know, as a first crack, I'm very happy with it. And this stain is really interesting because the stain is actually brown. Hey John, how you doing? Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the results, Sea Smokes. Although this is a dark brown stain, basically what I do is I put a bunch of undercoats on the whole pipe. I rusticate it first. So I get all the smooth areas done, then I rusticate it. Then I'll do an undercoat of, in this case I did dark brown. Okay, it's a standard Fiebing's dark brown, nothing fancy. And I'll do a lot of coats, literally, mainly on the smooth areas. On the rusticated areas, maybe 2 or 3 coats, but on the smooth areas, probably half a dozen coats, literally. And I'll leave a couple of minutes in between each one a couple of the coats I actually burnt in with a flame, but the rest I let them dry for a few minutes, then do another coat, and it almost becomes black. I should really take a picture of it one day because it actually looks quite cool when it's freshly had those bunch of coats on there. It looks black, but the more coats you put on, the thicker the coating, the undercoat, and then you leave that overnight or for a few hours or whatever it is. That's what gives you this contrast staining. That gets absorbed into the pipe and allows you to get this kind of contrasting when you then sand it back. Oh my, it's 1:10 already. So at the moment I might actually leave this now overnight because that's all wet. I was going to buff it, but I'm going to leave that for tomorrow now. The only downside with this tortoise shell is that you see everything that's going on inside the shank. So here I've drilled a 9mm tenon in there, so you kind of see that. But I think people are used to seeing that through tortoise shell stems and transparent stems. Gonna wet my whistle. Excuse me, do not look. That's good. Do I always smoke with a filter? Yeah, pretty much. It's interesting how cigars, though, don't affect me at all. I get no bite from them. I had a bit of a go at one of my suppliers today. See you, John. I bought a kind of a. They have one of the things that you could buy is a bunch of briar blocks of assorted sizes, and they're cheaper. I expected the cheaper blocks to get sort of, small oddments and things like that, but what I actually got was crazy oddments, and I think it was a bit cheeky. That's one of them. So that's had a block cut out of it, and I could probably make something out of it. I'm not sure what, but so that was one of them, which I wasn't very happy about. And then there's that one there, which again could make something out of it, but I just thought it was a bit cheeky. Just some very odd shapes, which are, see this one for instance, although it looks like a reasonable size, to get that in a, you can make small pipes, but to get that in the lathe I'd have to trim it up. By the time I've trimmed it up, there's nothing left. And I'm a regular customer of theirs. I've spent a lot of money with them over the past few months. I've become a regular customer. I order almost every week, and I've spent a good few £1,000s with them already. So I sort of sent them a polite letter saying that I'd expected a little bit better selection when they pick out the blocks. No, I'm not going to send them back. It's not worth the hassle. I'll make something out of them, and they acknowledged the email, which hopefully will mean they'll probably put a couple of blocks in the next order, so I'll be happy with that. Only problem at the moment is that they're out of briar, so I have to wait until they re-up their stock. I've got a reasonable amount of briar. When I see some other people online, they got drawers and drawers and drawers of briar, I feel a little bit nervous that, if there was a briar apocalypse, I'd be out of business before I even start. I've probably got about 20-25 blocks at the moment, which is enough to keep me going for the moment, but the rate that I'm making pipes, it won't last that long. Yeah, tampers definitely. I've set aside a couple of bits of briar to make tampers for that big chunky one. So this is a bit of the platter from that same block. So I'm going to make a little something out of that. I haven't really experimented much with tampers simply because, hey, Rocking Steady. Yeah, absolutely, Stonehenge. Yeah, at my rate. I just find that tampers, although they're nice to make, they just again it's time consuming when I'd rather make a pipe. That's the truth of the matter. But I do want to start experimenting with other things. I've said this before, I want to start maybe getting a few blanks, wood blanks to make bowls, possibly maybe make some ashtrays. A lot of people have asked me about my cigar ashtray upstairs in my office, which is a cool ashtray, and the guy who made it, Jason, he doesn't do it anymore. So it would be nice to maybe try and learn to make something like that. So I'd like to maybe sort of get into that as well. It would be nice to be able to make an ashtray which kind of it has my hallmark on it, maybe to try and find a design which is kind of unique. Obviously it's going to be a bowl which takes ash, I get that, but I'm saying in terms of the design, just to give it some kind of USP, and then perhaps that will make it desirable in some way. So that's something that's sort of slowly percolating in my brain. Pipe stand is another good idea actually. I might at some point, I keep telling myself that I'm going to make myself a rack to put on my desk so I can have more pipes on my desk, but I've so far not done it. I have actually Stonehenge, I have thought about that, and usually what I do is, but it's so far, the blocks that I've got are not big enough. What I wanted to do is, say for instance, I mean this is a good sized block, and it's got lovely plateau, You know, in the beginning when I started, I used to sort of value the plateau, and I made quite a lot of plateau pipes, and I did some reverse. But I'm now, because of I'm kind of developing my staining technique, I'm now really valuing what's beneath the plateau, which is the bird's eye. So in this one here, you can see the lines between the nodules that will create just a beautiful bird's eye pattern. I might actually keep this for the 100th pipe. I've kind of been sort of asking people for ideas. Actually, you guys, if you've got any ideas, something special to make a shape, or I'm not sure what, but something for the 100th pipe. Excuse me. This pipe I'm doing now is pipe 95. Hey Damon. So I'm not that far away from 100, which is pretty cool. I think I started numbering around December 2018, so I'm now a year and 2 or 3 months to be at 100 pipes. I think that's pretty good going. A Ramses? Well, no, I don't think. I don't think. I finally, you should say that, because, and I'm not just making this up. This is the absolute honest truth. I selected this out of my stock to do something like that. What I had in mind was I wanted to utilize this to get as much of this in the pipe as possible, rather than sort of cutting out a shape. I wanted to keep as much of this as possible, and what I had in mind was to make the pipe like that and cut the bowl. Where's my... So what I wanted to do was something sort of coming out of this section here, is to have the bowl here, something like that. So keeping as much of that as possible. I don't know if you can see those lines. And then to have the bowl, the top of the bowl here, sort of coming out of this rear section, as opposed to that kind of shape, sort of like that, but to have this standing up and the bowl just protruding from this main body section. That's kind of what I had in mind, which is not quite a Ramses, but it's that kind of idea. But drilling that, I haven't the foggiest idea how I'd do it. So to drill that would have to be something like that. And that would be a challenge for anybody. So that kind of idea. So the body, the back of the pipe being there, and the bowl being like that. Something like that. Yes, Stonehenge, I have seen that. I actually sent him a message not long ago to ask him whether they look so perfect, those drawings, whether that's computerized image, a computer generated image, or if it was hand drawn. I don't think he answered me. I mean, I don't doubt that he made the image, but I just was curious to know whether it was computer generated or hand done. Yeah, absolutely, Sea Smokes. I'll give anything a try. Maybe not diamond shanks, but I'll give anything a try. But I just don't want to waste the block. That's all. That's my real concern, is not to waste this beautiful block. And I have to be honest that thankfully most of the pipes that haven't gone to plan I've managed to salvage in some way. Not all. I had a pipe today which has been sitting on my shelf. It's a finished pipe, and I managed when I made it, I didn't realize how thin it was at the bottom. I usually try to make sure there's quite a meaty bit, you know, under the drill. So the problem with every pipe, by definition, is that you're always close to the heel. You know, if you look at the this, by the way, was my attempt with my stamp. Then if you can see it there, I'm having trouble with my stamp. It's not working out at the moment. And I'm actually probably going to get it redone. So anyway, what I was saying is that your draft line is always going to be very close to the heel, by definition. That's how you make a pipe. Yeah, that's the problem. The stamp is too big. So having an equal amount of pressure all over it to get a good thing is just not working. So I'm probably going to make it, at the moment it says, well, it says LCS Briars, and underneath it says London Made. So I'm probably going to separate those and make those two separate stamps, and I'd like to keep the London Made in there. So I'm probably going to make the LCS Briars, but maybe half the size, and have that maybe on one side of the shank, and then London Made on the other side, something like that. In terms of stamping before or after staining, it really depends on how deep an impression you're able to make. If you can make a deep impression, it makes no difference. But if you can't, then it's probably better to do it after staining. And the reason why this one is dark was because I actually spoke to Ian Walker yesterday of Northern Briars, and I told him the problems that I was having, and he suggested that I heat up the stamp with a flame, and that would help to just burn into the wood. And that got me this far, whereas beforehand I wasn't even getting that far. But it still wasn't working well enough. The surface, ideally you'd want it to be flat, but most pipes aren't. So you have to be able to... So a lot of people, they put it on the drill press and they bring down the stamp with force. And so here's the actual stamp. You can see it's black from heating it up. But it actually comes with a post. It comes with, he sent it with another post which goes into the drill press, into a normal chuck, and then you bring it down and then you rock it as you're applying the pressure, so you can apply it to a curved surface. I tried all of that, but the stamp is just wrong, and really and truly the company that made it, they should have known better. That's the honest truth. I'm not blaming them, because they asked me what size I wanted, and I suppose they assumed that I knew what I was doing, but I did tell them it's my first stamp. But anyway, it's neither here nor there. Also, once you sand and sand and sand and sand till you get that really highly polished finish, you're also kind of hardening the surface, which makes it harder. So it could be that before you do the final... See, this one here is raw. Let me see if that goes in any better. No, not really. So there you go. I also actually think that these are not sharp enough. I think these should also come to a finer point to the letters. If you imagine on a letter on a computer when you're typing, it almost feels like this is done in bold, so the letters are quite thick. So I'm just thinking maybe to ask them to also make them thinner next time. Yeah, I tried everything. Did it with a hammer, did everything. The only other thing I was thinking was to put it into a clamp, maybe, into a vise, and then use the vise to just apply the pressure. But then, yeah, I could put something in between to stop it, but if I have to go to that length to get a stamp on, then I'm obviously not doing it right, or the stamp isn't right, and I don't want to be faffing around for half an hour to get a stamp on. I have thought about the possibility of laser engraving. I don't know how much those cost. I would imagine they cost a pretty penny. But that's something I would actually quite like because it's just hassle-free. And I have seen quite a few people with them. What, laser engraving is risky, Mike? I'm really dry. I need a drink. Oh, I've got some water. Half one. Yeah, absolutely, Mike. With the vice, definitely risky. That's what we were smoking. So yeah, so that's where we're up to. That's pretty much dry now. If you guys want to hang on just a minute, I'll give this a quick buff, and I'll show you the finished product. Thank you. Alright, so I've just given it a very, very quick buff. I'm going to change the camera lens. Excuse the mess. So it's not full sheen, but it's there we go. So what I was saying before was that although this is a dark brown stain, when I rusticate it, I do those multiple coats, and then once the coats have been in for a few hours, I'll then wire brush it on the lathe. I've got a wire brush which goes in the lathe. I wire brush it. That lifts a little bit of that stain, of that dark undercoat, and then it just gives a red maroony kind of finish, and it just looks great. I always wondered how they did that maroon finish, and now I can see. Yep, the stem is absolutely spot on for this pipe. Grobnoll is in. How you doing, Grobnob? Even it sits, yes. It's got this flat bottom. The line here as well also is nice. It sweeps nicely over underneath it. So this one, as I said, I'm probably going to end up smoking this myself, because as I said earlier, I discovered a hairline crack right there. So I don't know if you can see it. Right there. See that little line? You can barely see it, and it doesn't impinge in any way on the stem. The stem is tight. I mean, I could just glue it. I put a bit of super glue in there and it'll hold, because the integrity is there. But I just wouldn't feel able to sell it, at least not without telling the customer. If the customer particularly wanted the pipe, knowing that, I suppose I would sell it, but you know, it's only asking for trouble if it cracked later on. And the thing here, I gave it a gentle curve, and I think that works. It just, this whole sort of line here just flows very nicely, which is what I was hoping to get. Oh, I smoke my own pipes. Most of the pipes that I smoke now are my own pipes. I've already got half a dozen in my rotation. Oh, I smoke my pipes all the time. To put another 10 in it would mean that I couldn't smoke 9mm pipes in there, so that would be a bit of a problem. 9mm filters. The simplest thing to do is to put a really, really thin silver band on it. I was thinking even of sending it to Ian Walker to put a really, really narrow band on it. As I was saying before, I've been making pipes for about a year and 2 months, something like that. I've got a couple of bits and pieces sitting around in my drawer which are still, you know, you have that kind of drawer with things which need completing and you never get around to it. One of my first pipes that I made, which I called the Puffer, you guys will remember, which is this pipe here. I've got to make a new stem for it. It should smoke very, very well. It's drilled perfectly. It's got a big bowl, and the drilling absolutely spot on. But I need to make a new stem for it. You guys remember this rustication I used to do? The golf ball style rustication? Yeah, possibly a copper or brass band, yeah. I've got this pipe in my drawer. I'm not sure what I want to do with it, but I wanted to just do something with it. It's got really nice grain. I've left it virgin at the moment. I haven't stained it in any way. It's got nice stuff there. Cheers, Wildcat. Night night. Really nice grain. If you look at it, can you see this would do a fantastic ring grain sandblast? Can you see those lines there going across? That's your grain, and that would do an amazing sandblast. Maybe that would be something for the future. It's very clean as well. Hey, Chris, long time no see. How are you? You still using that Humidor? That's another stummer which I made a while back, and the stem got a bit ruined. So I've got to do something with that at some point. And let's just see. So that's quite a bit, it's a bit of an odd shape. But also this one's also got a nice grain. I'd probably sand it back and restain it. Very, very light. It's as light as a feather, this one. The drilling looks okay as well. Yeah, that's okay. Alright people, I think that's it for now. I'm going to get some shut-eye. Thanks very much for joining this ad hoc live session. Unplanned, unscheduled. And perhaps I'll might even light this up on the drive tomorrow, we'll see. So thanks everybody, thanks Stonehenge, Sea Smokes, Mike, Chris, Paul, Grobnob, Tim, Wildcat, Piano, Smashing Artful. Who else? West Texas Piper. Louisiana, Texas. I didn't see you there, mate. Thanks for joining. The Hat Piper. And everybody else. Thank you very much. I wish you all a wonderful rest of your day, or morning, as the case may be. And I will catch you on the very next one. Happy International Pipe Smoking Day, which is when? Thursday, isn't it? I think I'm working Thursday night, actually. I'm working Thursday night. I've got an event on, which I'm going to be at till probably about midnight. So I probably won't be on in the evening. But yeah, maybe in the morning. So there we go. Thanks, everybody.